So if you're into eating lobster, this might be a good place to pick. Wow, there's a lot of them. Yeah, look at this. You can even swim here comfortably, even in October, because it's much warmer. Wow, I'm just gonna take a photo. This must have been complete peace. You're on this small island. I don't know how many guests it could accommodate, maybe 40, 50 guests. And you will just have full peace. Hi everyone. The next couple of days we are gonna explore Island Mljet. The island I had on my bucket list for so many years, so I'm totally thrilled to finally see the island. We're gonna go around with a car partly. We're gonna be inside the national park where we're gonna sail with a ferry, and we're gonna ride around with a bike, so you kind of get a feeling with all the options what you have here. So follow me around on this very green island. I think it's gonna be awesome.
So we got the tickets?
Yes, now we have the tickets, and now we're going down to Plistanitsa, where apparently the small electrical boat is gonna leave and take us to the St. Mary Island. And then we're gonna have a look at that one. And here, we should have brought a ball, Now we are on the electrical boat. We are on the way to St. Mary. And I think it's a very short trip. It's not far over there, so probably 5-10 minutes. 5 minutes we're gonna be there. So let's see how this goes. So nice. Nice. So, and this is the Great Lake we are on now. Not that it's enormous, but that's the name, because there's also a small lake. Okay, he's not speeding, he's taking it easy. I don't know if there's a minimal speed or maximum speed here, but I think he's closer to the minimal speed, But okay, no need for racing here. Every hour the boat departure from this place where we just went, but it also, if you are at this what they call the Mali Most, or the small bridge, which is basically where between the small and the bigger lake, there's also the boat also departure from there, so you can also go down there. It took 7 minutes with the boat, so really easy peasy. So, but the story is, as far as I managed to figure out, this monastery was built in the 12th century, the St. Mary monastery, or it's a Benedictine monastery, so built end of the 12th century, and was basically used as a monastery for I don't know how many centuries, and then At one point of time, I can't recall if in the 19th century they stopped doing this, and I think in 1960 it became a hotel and was a hotel for 25 years, and then it stopped being a hotel, and now it went back to the church, the administrative area of the Brownick. And as we saw as you maybe noticed on some of the footage, they are renovating everything. So for almost, what is it, 800 years, you know, it's more than 800 years ago since this was built. And it reminds me, if you have seen, we visited Visegrad, which was an island inside the national park Croatia, which also have a monastery. So it reminds me a bit about that. But I haven't seen any gardens, and I haven't seen any peacock. That's what we saw at Visegrad. But at least you can walk around also here. And I see climbing is also part of the game. Oh, there's a small church up here, or chapel. But now we're gonna get back down to the monastery. So there's a restaurant there. You can sit, have a coffee, have a lunch, and then take a boat later. But imagine this being a hotel that time. You know, this must have been complete peace. You're on this small island. Don't know how many guests it could accommodate, maybe 40, 50 guests. And you will just have full peace. Yeah, now we're getting down. Yeah, we already circled the whole island. What was that? That was like 3 minutes, 4 minutes walk. But the building itself it's quite impressive. Ah, and here we have some Game of Thrones style. This looks like from Game of Thrones. Okay, the bricks here are not from the 12th century. That I'm pretty sure about. It's really strange if it's been a monastery that there was no garden. That, okay, maybe they had gardens here or something like that, because I mean, if monks was living here, they needed food. Beautiful. I wonder which century this is from. Probably it wasn't installed when it was originally built. I assume it was something which came a little bit later. Current position is here. So one, that was the church. We went to see the Assumption. So 2, this is the garden, which we couldn't see. And that was a wall we passed by on the other side, so you simply need to get in somehow to see it. And then the chapel was the small one we passed by. Number 3 and number 4, that was the other chapel. That was when we walked around this part. And the Roman remains and the stables are up here. So now we had a visit to St. Mary Island. Because we are in May now, the boats only run every hour. So we decided just to spend 20 minutes here and hop on the boat again. Otherwise we had to do 1 hour and 20 minutes. But we asked the crew here regarding the summer season. In the summer season, the boats run every half hour. So you could go on the island, sit here at the restaurant, have a coffee, drink, and then go back and maybe spend 45 minutes on the island or 50 minutes or something, which I think would be more appropriate. An hour and 20 now would be a little bit an overkill. So now we're gonna sail back. We are not quite sure if the boat is gonna take us back to where we boarded the boat originally, or it's gonna take us down to the place called Mljet Most. We're gonna see. Yeah, definitely the boat is going to Mljet Most, so it does basically a circle all the time between the 3 stops. So you can jump on one place and get out in another place if that's what you prefer. But this could also be a neat place to stay. Instead of Pomena and Polače, to stay here inside where you're directly at the lakes. And now we ended up at Mljet Most, but this is not where we're going to get out because we need to get back to our car. But here you can get on the boat, and I think it's like a 25 minutes walk from Pomena. If you want to go directly from the apartment, you can go up here and take the boat and then go to the monastery like we did. And look, all the houses are really neat condition. No, and in addition to going with the boat to see St. Mary's, there's also at the Mljet Most, and I'm not sure if there's more, but at least at the Mljet Most you can rent a kayak. And then you can paddle out there if you feel like, doing a little bit of exercise and to get out and see the place out there. Now we are arriving back to the ferry pier where we started our trip. It took us exactly 1 hour to sail to St. Mary's, spend 20 minutes out there, jump on the boat again, sail down to the Mljet Most and get back to the pier where we boarded originally. So just for you to know, this can be done in 1 hour if you're planning a trip around Mljet. Information I forgot to mention when we were on the boat. When we boarded the boat, he ripped off a part of the entrance ticket. So you can sail with the boat once. That's it. If you want to go, for some reason, use the boat to move around and you've already used this strip, which he rips off, I think there's an option you can buy for €5 to get another trip around, just that you know that. So I wanted to show you where we are staying on the island. So now we are in a small village at the northeastern end of the island, which is called Pomena. And here we are basically spending our time or evenings on the island. And I thought we were gonna, have a small walk around so you can see what we figured out to now is this super neat, super nice little town. So let's walk around and see how it looks. And we of course came with a car. So there's 14 villages on the island. We could basically have stayed wherever we wanted because we came with the car. But we picked this one because we heard it's one of the most lively places, and also because we wanted to see how it looks when the ferries comes in, so we could show you this footage. Pomena is 100% tourism. There's, I looked it up, there's around 60 people living here for the whole year, registered citizens. So when the summer starts, everything here turns into apartments. So you can definitely find a place to stay here if you're not too late. And I think I counted on 7 or 8 restaurants in a city with 62 inhabitants. That's pretty high quota. So out here we had some of the restaurants. I think there's 3 or 4 of them in this area. Neat. I mean, nice. Nina. Wow. Galleria. This also looks very nice. Ah, they have a fish pound or what? No, there's no fish in it now. No, there's lobster. It's full with lobster. So, if you're into eating lobster, this might be a good place to pick. Wow, there's a lot of them. Wow, this looks cool. I mean, it seems to finding a spot to eat where you don't have a sea view is going to be a hard job here in Pomena. That was the 4th one. And then you have some apartments. I think this is more or less the end of it in this direction. Probably an apartment rental, which is being renovated. Yeah, the end is here. There's some parking up there. No, this is actually also a restaurant. So 5 of them are all in this direction. So if you want to have a bite next to the sea, plenty of options here. Let's go back to the center of town, if you can use that word, or to the middle of the bay, and then have a look at the other arm of the bay to see what we can find over there. And one thing you will notice if you visit Pomena is gullets. These mini cruisers, you see 2 more coming in. There's already 3 moored. So lots of them makes a stop here in Mljet. So if you're on one of these mini cruises for a week, this could be a way for you to see Mljet. And you might see in the footage now, I mentioned there was 5 of them, you might see in the footage that there's going to be 15, because we heard tomorrow, where we are also in Pomena, there's going to be way more of them. So we will see, we might shoot a B-roll just to show you how packed it can get in the port. And of course that also explains why you have so many restaurants. If you have 15 of these boats coming in with 30 people on each, that's 450 people, then you need a lot of places where the people can go and eat. Plus everybody else who's on Mljet for coming in with the catamaran, who just are staying here. So it gets probably really busy when you have all these people around. So now we came back from the northern arm of the bay, and we have our protection here. Now we're gonna walk down the northwestern bay just to have a look at that one. So let's go. And by the way, if you turn around, this is where we are staying. Apartment Slavica. We got an apartment with a fantastic sea view. I might show you that later. And here we will be back later, because we're gonna rent a bike to explore some more of the national park on bicycles, because it's just way easier than getting around with the car. And also on this side, coffee bars, restaurants. And a really nice boat. And the guy we just said hello to, that was our waiter from yesterday evening. We went there and had a nice dinner. But it really has a nice vibe, this small town here.
Roads are clear now.
And here on the left side of us that is actually a hotel. It's closed now because it's undergoing renovation, but that's the only hotel on the island. So now there's no hotels. You can only stay in apartments. And we have one catamaran coming in now from Pomena specifically. There's other ferry connections on the island, but for Pomena, the Croatia and the Browning are the most obvious, but you also have a ferry which continues all the way to Split from here, and also to Island Var, for the matter of saying. And this is, of course, only in the summer period. And again here, bicycles lined up. Everybody rides bicycle here on the island. I think this is the end of Pomena. Hope you got an idea, of the vibe of the city, or the village here. I find it really neat. Hope you're having some great weather wherever you're sitting. We unfortunately are stuck with a nice lunch and this. We now have these two nice ones, because if you want to explore the national park Mljet, I think there's no easier way than to going on a bicycle. So we got the luxury version, which has a small engine, which is going to help us a little, because there's a few hills here, and we are not only going to go to the national park, we're actually going to go other places. So we have an excuse to take the electric bike. We can, of course, also get the regular one. And we rented the bikes here, Aloha, which has bike rental in Pomena, in Polače, also at the Mljet Most, and a fourth place. So there's several places you can rent the bike, and you can actually, great thing is you can rent them one place and return it in one of the other ones if you have plans like that. Anyway, let's get going. I look forward to exploring Mljet on the bicycle. This is easy. Man, I get used to this. Ima, sama malo. Ja, Ima. Vala vam puno. Watch out, we are only allowed to drive 40. And here's the sign for the wild boar. I've never been to a place where I saw so many signs like this, so assumingly they have quite a lot of these around. I don't want one of these to crash into me. So what is this here? Yeah, but you might as well go this way around. Okay, it's Macadam, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah! Look at this. Well. I see the first people out swimming. So now we are arriving at Mljet Most, the small bridge, which is the bridge between the small and the large lake. Now we're just leaving the Mljet Most, and now we're gonna do a circle around the big lake. And where we just passed here by the Mljet Most was people waiting for the ferry or the lake boat. And as you will see, either have seen or will see in the video, we already took a tour with the boat to St. Mary's Island earlier today. The bike trip around the big lake is around 9 kilometers. So with these electrical bikes, it feels like absolutely nothing. Hello, hello.
Hi. Hi.
No, similar to Plitvice, there's these tracks. They are well marked, so you have the bicycle tracks, but you also have hiking tracks. Of course, you can use this one we are driving on now for either. You have specific hiking tracks also, which goes in other areas. And here we are on the right side. I'm not sure if we see it good enough now, but this is the lake villa. It kind of makes sense, the name. Located kind of in the middle of a national park at the lake. And now we're coming up to a nice village up here. Babine Kuće. So if you insist of staying in the middle of the national park, literally, even though where we are staying is also in the national park, but you know, if you kind of think of the lakes as the center, Babine Kuće probably doesn't get any better than. Mljet has been a national park since 1960, but I more wanted to tell you something about the island here. So the island is 100 square kilometers, 37 kilometers long. I think the max width is 3.2, so a really long stretch one. And the national park is maybe 1/3 of the northern part of it, although the national park has 50 square kilometers because all the sea areas, the small islets and stuff we could see from Pomena, they are also included. But one thing which I found fascinating from Mljet is that you have, of course, in Croatia there's snakes and there's also venomous one. But on Mljet there's none, or they haven't seen one for as long back as that they have registered. And why is that? Because in 1900 and around 10, and at that time there was a lot of these venomous snake, so they introduced 10 or 12 Indian mongoose. And so you are more likely to see an Indian mongoose than you are to see a snake. So here at this island you can go hiking without any worries. And now it goes uphill, so I'm just gonna turn on my small little assistant again. It's so nice. Man. Wow, this also looks nice. Huh?
Yeah.
Nice garden they made here.
Yeah, yeah.
We're coming to the main entrance where the main ferry port to St. Mary, but we just need to continue straight here. So up to the left would be where you would leave cars and there's an entrance, but we don't need to, we want to circle the island. And you see, share the road, bicycles, cars and people walking.
Nice.
Pretty nice here.
Yeah.
And now you can see the bridge out here. You see?
Yeah.
But till now the only animals I saw was a lizard. On St. Mary Island there was 3 or 4 of them running in front of my feet. But no mongoose, no wild boar. But you know, it's not the end of the day yet. Here it looks inviting, the water. And what did they say? In the summer season it can go to, it stays much warmer because it's enclosed, the lakes. So it can get, at the end of the summer it can be up to 30 degrees Celsius, the water. Mm. And so which means if you come late in the season, you can even swim here comfortably, even in October, because it's much warmer. There's a path to Polače, if you want to hike there. And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but of course, there's also, they call it a mini train, which drives around, which covers some part. You can go from the main entrance towards Mali Most and there's also a train going in this direction to Velimost, and then returns. If you don't feel like walking and doing the bicycle, then the train is an option to see the national park. And I think it's included in the price.
Yeah.
You can simply jump on that one, but it doesn't drive that often. I think right now it was 6 times a day. Maybe when we get to July, it will be a few more trains. Oh, we don't want to run over here. For this, you could definitely do a regular bike without any problem.
Yeah.
It was only the beginning part when you have to go down from Pomena and up, which was a bit steep, but as soon as you are here, there's no problem. So if you rent the bikes down at the lake, you really don't need an e-bike, I would say. You know, you can do that with a regular bike without any problem. So here's the big bridge. We're gonna go to that one a little bit later. And I can see we need to carry the bikes to get down and to get over the bridge, but we'll manage that. But before we cross the bridge, we're gonna go out to this place, Soline, a traditional fisherman settlement. We heard that it should be very nice. So when we're anyway here, I think we should have a look at it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Let's go.
Good, let's go. So when you pass the bridge, you're basically out, and then it flows on like a channel, and then it goes into this, then you're out in the open sea. Wow.
Ah.
You should have brought the ball, Even in the middle of the national park, they are ready for you. It's the same as on Kirka.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm just gonna stop here.
Yeah, this is great.
This just looks too nice. Wow, it's neat. Okay, it looks, closed. I think it's a bit early in the season for them. Here, potatoes. No, and you have such a small village, you have the palms, you have everything, it just looks fantastic. So this is, I never saw anything like this. Oh.
It's a berry.
Well, and the color, so it must be sand, but a lot of it. It must be.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
I think so, yeah.
Or white stone or something like that. But I was reading somewhere that because of the nature is so strong here in the channel, I don't know if I got it right, but somewhere there was, it was very, very deep here, like 30 meters in this channel somewhere. I don't know if maybe I got it wrong. I need to read up on that. But the sea looks just wild, wild, wild. Wild. So here then, and here. So you have the Mediterranean monk seal.
Yes.
That one lives out here. So, with the here, it's like two seas are running together, So what we're looking at here is the St. Mary Island with the monastery, and we already visited that one earlier, came out with the electrical boat. Definitely something to include in the itinerary for a visit to Mljet. And now we are heading down to a village called Polače. So let's see if we manage to find it. But there's a nice breeze here when you ride, so feels really comfortable. "150 meters and then it goes to the left." Oh, look. Well, of course you need to be careful when you drive, but there's not much traffic on this island. So, and when we enter Polače here, from this side, we have something very interesting. Because the name of the city, Polače, actually came from a Roman palace, which is right at the entrance to the village when we come from this side. So here's the village sign, Polače. We enter here. And the Roman palace, you see some of it, we just passed here on the left side, some of the walls from it. And over here is the remains, the main part of it. Not sure if it's visible on the camera from here. I'm just going to point it up a little bit more. So now we are driving, through a gate in a Roman palace. Cool? I think it's cool. So, and like Pomena, Polače is of course also 100% tourist related. Restaurants directly here at the sea. Here's one made from a boat. Restaurants on this side. And again, a lot of rent a bike for those who wants to explore the national park on bike like we are doing it. And the size of the city, the village here, is more than double of Pomena, which is why this one has a small, tiny supermarket. And from here you can, of course, also, if you end up here in Polače, you can also walk to the national park, but it's a bit further than from Pomena. And I think it's more uphill. We have another nice restaurant, Calypso. Really nice with tables on this side here. I think we're getting to the end of Polače. I think we're gonna turn around. I think there's nothing more to see except just apartments, apartments, apartments. Take a U-turn. Then we're gonna go back to the bustling center and have a little bit closer look on the palace. The rule is one more time. If you're staying inside the national park area in a land-based accommodation, you need a ticket. You need an entrance ticket. Even if you don't want to go around the lakes or something, you still need an entrance ticket. But the good thing is, it's 20 euro a day now, and I think 30 euro in the summer, and the ticket is valid for your whole stay. So if you're doing 3 nights, you still only pay one time, and then it's just marked on the ticket that it's valid for the period you're here, which is quite good. But the ones coming on the boat needs to pay for the boat plus the entrance ticket. That's the rule. Right? Because there's no entrance except these ones here. And then somebody said, I'm gonna put my house next to the Roman house. So this is the basilica here. One side there, and then you have more walls, which is also covered. So this one was a bit bigger, but still only small parts of it is preserved. So now we just had a very, very interesting car ride because we are now going to the Odysseus Cave. And let me put it like that, they didn't plan that you go down here with car. Although it said on the map and there was a parking, we also found the parking, but was really a tight space with the car. I mean, I think if you're driving a smart, you should be fine, but when you go with a little bit larger car, it was really tight. Anyway, from here, I think from the parking, it's supposed to be maybe 600-800 meters to get down near the cave. Well, at least this walking path is very, very good. Wow, look at the stone over there. Crazy. Oh, here's the cave, look. Wow, 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 wow. Look. Wow. Wow, I'm just gonna take a photo. So, and that one is connected to the, all the way down to the sea, I guess. Huh. No, here's the markings on the track. So I assume this is the correct way. We are almost at the coffee bar. Hopefully it's open, so we can get some refreshment, but I think not. Wow. And Tony used to come here. Apparently, maybe he thinks it's his. Down here's the cave. So this is the end of our video from Island Mljet. I hope you enjoyed the tour around, all the stuff we saw. We went around with the car, we went around walking, we went with bicycle, we visited the national parks and we visited some of the villages. We tried to, cover as much as possible. Unfortunately, there was a few points we left out, but that's what happens when you go out filming. You are under some kind of time restraint, and of course, you depend on the weather, so these kind of things. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the movie, and till the next one. Thank you very much.